Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 12th of February 2014. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Coming up in the show, Arkham Origins community manager confirms that there will be no patch to fix the bugs that players of the game suffer from, and Infinity Ward will be banning anyone that uses third-party software with Call of Duty Ghosts. All this in the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. An Arkham Origins community manager, who may very well be out of a job rather shortly, has confirmed that there are no plans for a patch for Arkham Origins at this time, and the Arkham Origins development team is working hard on the upcoming story DLC. It went on to say that if we do move forward with creating a new patch, it will try to address the progression blocking bugs for players, not the minor glitches that do not prevent one from continuing to play. The issues which are not progression blockers will unfortunately no longer be addressed. We apologize for any inconvenience this has caused for you, and want to thank you for having been patient. Oh, how kind of them! How generous to be so honest about this particular issue. It does really boggle the mind, doesn't it? It is a rather refreshing piece of honesty, I've got to say, because there's no doubt been many games in the past that have been in the exact same situation. They just haven't bothered to communicate that fact over to the player base. However, on the flip side, the sheer audacity of a developer saying, yeah, we know that there are progression blocking bugs within this game, and we're probably not fixing them, and if we do fix anything, it'll be those bugs and not the minor glitches. So we're going to literally leave our game in a broken state in some way, and we're not going to do a damn thing about it. How is this acceptable again? I mean, we're not talking about some poorly funded indie dev here, we're talking about Warner Brothers. They have a reasonable amount of money, folks, that I can tell you for a fact. What really gets me about this post is the fact that they said there are currently no plans for releasing another patch to address the issues that have been reported on the forums. So the actual players themselves have come to you, they have told you what the issues are, where they are, and you literally are refusing to fix them. Yes? I just want to make sure that I'm absolutely 100% crystal clear on what it is that you're saying. You know, I think it's very easy to blame DLC for this whole thing, but I'm gonna be honest here. The development of DLC does tend to encourage further development past launch. There's a couple of fairly obvious reasons for that, the most important being that you can't really sell DLC for a broken game. And there's two parts of that, one being if your game's broken and you add DLC on top of that, you risk breaking it even further. And secondly, the fact that people who own a broken game are unlikely to give you extra money past that point if you have said outright that you're unwilling to fix it. And why would I buy an add-on for something that's broken, right? I wouldn't. I mean, that's just ludicrous. You wouldn't do that. Which is why it's a little bit galling to say, yeah, we're working on DLC, and we know the game's broken, but we don't have any intention of fixing it. So it's like, so who's going to buy your DLC then? I guess the people that are uninformed in that respect. Even then, the likelihood of those people actually buying the DLC is fairly low. You're likely to buy the DLC if you've beaten the game, if you've somehow got past those bugs. I got really lucky when I played my copy of it. I can't remember how many hours I put in, probably 6 or 7 before I did my first impression, so I was pretty in-depth with it. Did I run into any bugs? No, I didn't, but further on in the game, there are certainly a few. Some of them have been addressed, some of them haven't been. They're not necessarily things that are affecting every single player, which is why it starts to get a little bit strange, and people say, oh, well, you know, it's not a buggy game at all, because I haven't run into any. Well, that's not really the nature of bugs. That's the problem with it. I got lucky, but I recognize that there are definitely bugs within that title. I don't think there's an excuse for this, though. I've tried to think about the devil's advocate kind of position here, and I suppose what you could say is that the development team actually does want to fix the bugs, but they're not being given the budget to do it. The publisher is saying, look, no, you're going to work on DLC, we're not giving you the time and the budget to fix this stuff, make the DLC. Maybe Arkham Origins was not as successful as Warner Brothers wanted it to be. That's entirely possible. I mean, it was certainly, in my opinion, the weakest of the three. It wasn't a bad game, I enjoyed my time with it, but it wasn't better than City, and it certainly wasn't better than Asylum. So the chances are that it got the sales that it deserved for being a fairly derivative title. The only thing it really did differently was the multiplayer, which unfortunately wasn't that well implemented, even though the mechanics of that mode and the actual concept were very good indeed. It's likely that the development team does want to fix it, but they're not being given the budget. But here's the thing, they're the ones that put the bugs in there in the first place, through incompetence and lack of due diligence and so on and so forth. So you can't be that sorry for them. It's like, oh, the poor innocent developers are not getting the time they need to fix their product because that evil, evil money-grubbing publisher doesn't want to give it to them. Yes, but if they'd made a game that worked properly in the first place, then we wouldn't have this issue, would we? And you can talk all you wish about deadlines, but at the end of the day, you did make a title that was very derivative of the previous one and required you really to only put new content in there as opposed to actually completely redeveloping the title from scratch. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have that much sympathy for them, I am afraid. And I think, if anything, this does demonstrate further that we need solid refund policies for this kind of stuff. There's no way you're getting a refund for Arkham Origins, I'm sorry. It's very unlikely to happen. But the fact of the matter is that this game is not fit for purpose for some people, and that's something you have to bear in mind. So, yeah, you are entitled to a refund in most countries, I would say, but good luck actually getting one in the first place. Most of the time, these laws don't necessarily apply to digital copies. Can you get a refund from Steam? Well, they might give you a one-off if you haven't already used your one-off refund, but as a matter of course, no, they will not. But unfortunately, any kind of system like that would also be open to abuse. It's very easy to return, quote-unquote, a digital copy. And if these bugs are game-breaking, but they're only 10 to 12 hours in the game, how do you figure out who exactly did suffer from those bugs and is refunding it for a good reason? And how do you figure out who's just trying to scam the system, having blitzed their way through the game and wanting to get themselves a free copy, essentially? It's difficult. It's a very difficult situation, but it's rather annoying, I suppose, that the retailer has to be the one that deals with this in some way, because the publisher and developer will not do their due diligence. I wonder if even class action lawsuits are a possibility there. Whatever the case, I think it'd be rather silly indeed to buy the DLC for Batman Arkham Origins if they flat out said, we know our game's buggy, but we're not going to fix it, so tough. Deal with it. In a story that's similar but different, Infinity Ward has announced that they will be banning PC users that are found using third-party software in Call of Duty Ghosts. What this means is that, of course, you're running any sort of third-party cheat tool or anything like that, you get banned. That sounds good, right? That sounds absolutely fine. Unfortunately, what that also means is that they will be banning anyone, by the sounds of it, that are using third-party FOV modification software, which is used by many of us to actually make the game playable in the first place. The default field of view for Call of Duty Ghosts on PC is 65. This is a fairly standard field of view that is used on consoles for people that are playing on larger televisions that are further away across the room. The standard acceptable field of view for most PC first-person shooters is 90. So, as you can see, that's a fairly significant difference. You end up seeing almost 50% less, which is ridiculous when you think about it. Now here's the thing, their statement contradicts Infinity Ward's stance from June 1st, 2012, where Candice Cappan, the community coordinator for Infinity Ward, confirmed that no, they do not ban for the use of FOV changing software, and Valve does not issue VAC bans for such a thing either. Infinity Ward does not mind if PC users have the FOV changer mod. This is now evidently, however, not the case. However, Infinity Ward have followed up by saying that the FOV changer for PC is in the works. They don't have an exact ETA, but they're working to get this in. Unfortunately, in the interim, that means that you risk being permanently banned from the game if you actually use that FOV changing software, since it does count as a third-party piece of software. Yeah, great. You're gonna implement an FOV slider. Fantastic. Okay, when? Alright, well, the game's been out for several months already. It's currently almost the middle of February now. When did Ghosts come out? That came out in November of last year, so we've been waiting 3 months so far to get something that is standard to PC FPS. Alright, well, how long does that take to do? Because what I saw from that mod is that it was working from day one, and it did the job for the most part. If you went a little bit too high, it did break some of the animations, but that didn't actually make all that much of a difference. It certainly made the game playable. Now, some of you might be sick of me harping on about this issue, but I'm never ever going to stop, and you're just going to have to get that into your heads. And the reason I'm not going to stop is because for me and many others, a narrow field of view causes things like motion sickness, headaches, and eye strain. Yeah? These are real. This is called simulation sickness. You can go and look it up. It does exist. The reason why 65 field of view is acceptable for a console game is that you're sitting further away from the television. The fact of the matter is that the closer you are to the device, the wider a field of view you need, otherwise your brain says, hang on a minute, that's not how that's supposed to look and gets horribly confused, and for some of us, that results in motion sickness, nausea, and eye strain and headaches. Now, if your game is causing all of those things, then, frankly, your game is not fit for purpose, and I've said this many times before. It's almost become a meme on this channel that I talk about field of view slider, but it's very important. It's extremely important. As I've said in the past, even if you are not affected by simulation sickness, you should still be bothered by this because a wider field of view allows you to see more. And it's much, much better on PC where you have that accurate mouse. You don't need 65 field of view. You don't need to be zoomed in like that. You want to have greater situational awareness, and you want to be able to see more things rendered on the screen. You don't need these giant gun models that are obscuring parts of the screen. You are not a console gamer. You are a PC gamer. You have the capability to render more and have a more powerful machine. And hey, if you don't want to do that, that's the wonderful thing about being part of the PC, isn't it? You have an option. You have a choice when it comes to that field of view, or anything else, in fact. You want a narrow field of view? Cool. Take it. You want a wide field of view? Great. Take it. That's the point. It's about options. It's about choice. And yet, for some reason, there are plenty of AAA developers that do not understand this, or just don't care. That's the thing that I would make a note of in regards to Infinity Ward. Since Modern Warfare 2, they have been extremely disrespectful to those on the PC platform. They don't give a damn about PC. I can't say I'm massively surprised considering the disastrous failure of the Modern Warfare 2 boycott, and there were good reasons to boycott that game. Lack of dedicated servers, latency problems, you didn't even have proper text chat, no console commands of any description. I mean, the arrogance that was just radiating from Infinity Ward regarding that game after their smash hit Modern Warfare, it was ridiculous. I mean, they responded by saying, we would like you to play the game the way we designed and balanced it, yeah? So there's things like no lean and everything like that. Oh, God. I remember that time. I successfully boycotted that game. I have not bought it to this very day, and unfortunately, a bunch of people did. Since that time, it seems Infinity Ward have had no reason to give a damn about PC. Modern Warfare 3 was a goddamn joke as well. The options for that were pathetic. Field of view had to be forced, again, through a third-party tool, otherwise it would default to 65. They actually allowed dedicated servers in Modern Warfare 3. How goddamn generous of them, but they have not respected the PC platform for a while, and I'm going to be honest, the PC platform doesn't respect them either. I think you can blatantly see it in the Steam played stats. If you look at that, then Ghosts is consistently beaten into the ground. Into the ground by Black Ops 2. Not only that, but Modern Warfare 3 is often more played than that, and Modern Warfare 2 is kind of creeping up behind it as well, as ludicrous as that sounds. The new release of this series is less popular than a bunch of the older ones. That is a real problem. And to be honest, they goddamn deserve it, because Ghosts is a joke on PC. The ridiculous amount of frame drop that's going on in that game, and there's no justification for it. The performance issues, it's rife with them. The 65 locked FOV, it's a disaster. Even if it wasn't just the field of view issue, that game just doesn't work properly. I have no idea what to expect from Sledgehammer in 2014's Call of Duty on PC. I'm hoping that once we get Treyarch's game, it'll actually be worth having. Black Ops 2 was good, you know, it worked well on PC. It was a good port, a very good port. Probably one of the best ones in a long, long time. The question is, will that still actually happen? We should bear in mind that Treyarch's release of Black Ops 1 was a mess on PC, but at least they put things like customizable FOV and dedicated servers in there. So you're gonna have to forgive me if I am not particularly impressed by their promises that, yeah, well, we'll get around to putting an FOV slider in there. It should have been in there by default. That's a default feature on PC FPS. You have to have that. That's like saying, well, we forgot to put controller support into the 360 version of Ghosts. You know, you wouldn't do that. So why would you do that here? You know, PC is not the same as console. Each platform should be treated differently. Each platform should be treated the way it's supposed to be. You should be making games bearing in mind the strengths, weaknesses, and requirements of that platform. I don't want to see any version be inferior to the other, but I also want to see every version take advantage of the platform it's on. As it stands, Call of Duty Ghosts is not fit for purpose. Straight up. Alright folks, that's me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the content patch. Before I go, I'd like to give you the OC Remix track of the day if you don't mind. It is important that those of us that are into fighting games every now and again worship at the altar of Dan, rightfully so, because he is the best Street Fighter, and this is a remix worthy of his name. It comes from the game Street Fighter Alpha, of course. Came out in 1995, if you can actually believe that. This remix came out a couple of days ago, and is a rather nice funk interpretation of Dan's stage from the aforementioned game. This track is remixed by Bonkers, and you can download it in the description below this video. It will make a Dan out of you. It's called Street Fighter or Streetest Fighter. I'll see you next time.